Welcome to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprophet.com. And now your hosts, Craig and Jeff.
Welcome everyone to the Fantasy Football Prophet podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we continue our lead up to the NFL draft, doing our division by division previews. And today we have the AFC North, which is extremely exciting. Actually, you know what? I like Cleveland. I'll just start off that before we even get to it. I'm liking what Cleveland's doing, so we'll have stuff to talk about there, and Pittsburgh's always interesting. But we'll just get right into it. To start off with our favorite team in the NFL, the Baltimore Ravens, which, oh God, they bore me so much, Jeff. I don't know about you. I just can't stand that. I don't know what it is about them.
Not a whole lot to like.
I just get bored of the Baltimore Ravens every year, and I don't really think this year is going to be any different. And they got Joe Flacco yet at quarterback, which is completely, to me, not fantasy relevant. He's sort of, I mean, he's going to have weeks where he is. He's going to do well sometimes. And then you're going to see the Joe Flacco name at the end of a waiver wire for like a QB streamer. You know it's going to happen. And he's going to have a matchup or two. You're like, oh, he plays Cleveland twice, right? So let's get him in for one of those weeks. You used to always think. Obviously don't care about him.
No, I mean, his numbers say it all, right? So last year, he had, and this is playing a full season, remind you. It was not me, he was hurt. 3,100 yards with 18 touchdowns and 13 terrible. Interceptions. Yeah, and he's not a runner either, obviously. He had one rushing touchdown.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Upside. Yeah, so he's a streamer at best.
I'd rather see Robert Griffin, the new backup for the Ravens, in there at quarterback for fantasy purposes.
Yeah, you might as well find out what you have.
Which, you know, maybe there is something for Robert Griffin. Maybe.
Yeah, okay. I immediately take it back. Flacco, as far as fantasy, is useless. But he's still
he's better than Robert Griffin.
Exactly. He's still
but
decent
still,
NFL
quarterback situation, who cares? So running back, we'll talk about that. Alex Collins, interesting player.
Yes. The running back situation is a bit interesting. And I know you're not a big fan of Alex Collins.
I'm not sold. There's not much, I guess I could say. I mean, you look at his numbers, they're pretty good, you know, for the most part. They weren't, though, they're not spectacular. They really aren't. They're not going to blow you away, I don't feel like. He had, 973 yards, 4.6 yards to carry, got 6 touchdowns. He got 23 balls. So he didn't have, like, the main role the whole time. It took him a bit to get going. But I think he's just a guy. I don't think he's special. We've seen a lot of players that have done this early on. I mean, Peyton Hillis did this, and you can say that. That's one I always remember. Just had that 1 year, it was great, and then he just fell back down to earth like you kind of thought he would. I mean, we've seen a lot of players step up early. Jeremy Hill did great, came back down to earth. Even players that were drafted high, like Trent Richardson. It happens a lot. You can have a good year and not be very good. I think he's okay. But then there always still is Kenneth Dixon looming there. You know, he's actually going to play this year and be healthy, which maybe, you know, he steps in. There's Buck Allen still there. He's going to get catches, going to take away from Alex Collins' potential receiving numbers, which is going to hurt. I don't know. There's so many other players I think I'd rather have than Alex Collins.
I can't believe you're actually going to make me defend this one because I feel like there's the only position I can take because you're so low on him. But I mean, do you think that, and it's quite possible, do you think that Buck Allen, Dixon will take carries away, or do you think that they're possibly going to draft someone?
I don't know if they'll draft anybody. Maybe they will later.
Say if they don't draft someone that's better than Alex, like say they don't draft anyone, just for argument's sake. Do you think that Dixon and Buck Allen can take the job away from?
I don't think they're going to take the job away, but I think they're going to take enough away where it makes it so. Again, this is always depending on where you get a guy in the draft. That's all relative. It's all value. Value is everything. Every player is worthwhile in a way. Like Alex Collins, as your third running back, is not bad. You know, you can deal with that. As your second, I think that's a weak number 2 running back. So it's more of a, I don't like the position. I don't trust the player yet. He wasn't some amazing prospect, which I know doesn't always matter, but there is still a reason that Seattle just let him go. No problem. He was 23. He's only 23 years old, and they just gave up on him.
Yeah, and he did pretty well. In college, he was obviously good enough to make it to the NFL. But at the same time, it's not like Seattle had some, unbelievable running backs. Like they dealt with their own issues. So the fact that he did get, sent packing kind of says a lot.
Yeah.
Saying that though, okay, I don't think that Baltimore has some wonderful offense. In fact, I think it's quite the opposite.
Yeah.
So if that is the, what's keeping him from getting 15 to 20 carries, which he did in the second half of the year, what's stopping him from at least getting that bulk carry point, outage, where even if he's not that great, he can, pretty much stumble his way to 8 to 10 points a game.
I mean, he could probably do that, but right now on Fantasy Pros, look at that. He's ranked as their 20th best running back, which puts him running back 2. That puts him as a number 2 running back. And okay, it's not even like I'm that crazy off on them. I got my rankings kind of going. A little sneak peek at him here. I'm going to officially release him after the draft, but I currently have Collins at 23rd. It's not far off from where the consensus has him, but that's still, to me, that's more running back 3 type range.
Okay.
I get that. It's more of that. It's like I don't want him as a 2. I don't feel comfortable with him as a 2.
And believe me, I agree with you, but I have to argue this side because the thing is, he is going to go somewhere, and the question is, where do you feel comfortable taking him? I hate it because I'm not even going to feel that. Like, I'm not going to feel good even if I have him as my number 3, which I think would be a good value. But you're right. I don't really feel good about him. I don't really know if he's going to be able to do it for an entire year. I don't know if they're going to draft someone else. There's a lot of question marks here. But if you did have to get someone, especially as a running back 3, I mean, what do you think his chances are of holding on to that starting job?
I think he should get the majority of the carries, unless Kenneth Dixon is actually a player, which no one knows. It's just a name. It's been a name for a couple years. So it's all going to depend on if he can play. So I think there is a good chance that he's the main back for the year, but I don't know if that equals anything more than 900 yards and 6 touchdowns again, which isn't spectacular. So how about, I'm going to talk a lot about Baltimore here, actually, before we can get to wide receivers. But, okay. Currently, I'm just going to throw some names out here of players that are currently ranked around him. Okay. And this, to me, is a big difference. So currently, Alex Collins is 20th. Bear in mind, that also means that's with Saquon Barkley behind him in these ranks. So Barkley's going to be ahead of him, obviously. Right. But, okay. Jay Ajayi is 19. Alex Collins is 20. To me, there's not a one-spot difference between those two guys. I think maybe my Jay Ajayi love is just too much. Like, I have Jay Ajayi much higher than that.
Okay, tell me who else is around him, because it might be a drop-off right there.
That's what it is. That's why he's going to stick at this level, which bothers me about this level. Okay, 21, Lamar Miller.
Well, that's a hard one because I don't like it. I've had a long history of hating Lamar Miller.
But it's still, though, he's almost like him. I guess it makes sense where he's there then.
Yeah. Usually Lamar Miller would be obviously a lot higher, but the fact
is, he's so down on Lamar Miller.
Yeah, and he's probably going to be more of a running back too, and that offense is not for him anymore.
Dion Lewis.
Yeah, I mean a lot of question marks.
Could be better. Jerick McKinnon is behind Alex Collins.
Okay, first of all, I don't feel good about any of the guys we're talking about right now, but I think Jerick McKinnon, because of how much San Fran went after him, and they've come out and said he's a 3-down back, I would definitely draft him over Alex Collins.
And see, I guess that where he's ranked, it makes sense in a way, because that's where the next guy is like Tevin Coleman, who's a backup,
right?
Duke Johnson.
He more than likely, it looks like Saquon Barkley is going to be there.
Maybe Chris Thompson, which could be interesting.
Yeah, just every single guy comes with a giant question mark.
C.J. Anderson. He's still the guy. He's still there.
Yeah, which C.J. Anderson we're going to get? But I still like C.J. Anderson a little bit better.
Rex Burkhead?
I like Burkhead. I think he's a good value.
And then you always have to wonder, who's the Green Bay running back going to be?
We don't know. Valuable. I mean, I guess that's the same thing with Burkhead, the Patriots.
Samaje P. Ryan, is he going to be the Washington back? Would you rather have him over, I don't know, probably not over Collins, but there's just a lot of question marks. Alex Collins is just, that to me, that shows there's a big drop-off at running back around 20.
Yeah, very much.
And you need to get 2 running backs before that.
Yes, absolutely.
So get 2 running backs before you get Alex Collins and get him higher ranked.
And that's crazy because I feel like there's more depth coming up this year than there was last year.
At the top, I think last year's drop off just happened a little bit quicker.
Yeah,
more like
I think it's because it's still very early. Obviously, we're still ramping up to the season. I think a lot of this will kind of take care of itself. It'll be a lot more clear when they start doing depth charts. And, I mean, truly, like in this situation, Alex Collins could be, they could easily draft someone like Sony Michel or someone that is, we like, and he could easily take over.
Exactly. Yeah, it's all going to depend. That's why we don't do rankings until the draft's over, because we have no idea where these rookies are going to slot in. And players like, I always keep looking at like Marlon Mack. I'm looking at him at Colts because if they don't draft anybody, he should jump up rankings.
Right. He'd be the number one guy.
He has to. So players like that. Okay. How about the receivers, though? We talked enough about Alex Collins. Well, he's an interesting fantasy player. This is a very interesting situation, though. He's very polarizing. So later on, when we do our polarizing players, he's probably one of them. Because he's just, people have different opinions on it. But wide receiver wise, this is, again, question marks. We got Michael Crabtree is now their number one receiver. And he struggled last year, I'd say, for the Raiders. Played in 14 games. So this is in 14 games. 58 catches, 618 yards, and 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, he's still got the 8 touchdowns, which is good. Yep. But compared to, he had 3 games the 2 seasons before that each, where he went over 100 yards. I think it just shows you. He was also, obviously, he got hurt. He was out for 2 games. Is this the regression you see with age, or is that just hobbled by injury type situation? And remember, too, Amari Cooper didn't do well there either.
That's true.
Their whole team, their whole offense kind of sputtered.
With Crabtree, he's going to be 31 at the start of the year, which, a lot of receivers still can go, no problem at that point, but not everyone. Like, he very well could be starting to drop off. We don't know. That's possible. And then again, just because a player is the number one receiver on a team doesn't mean they're going to be any kind of good fantasy value. So I don't know if he's going to have good fantasy value here. I don't know if Crabtree's the number one. To me, he's just not. I think he's a great number 2 receiver on a team. I don't think he's ever really panned out as a great number 1.
I don't know if it's really going to matter because of his style of play.
I don't think it's going to matter because the team sucks.
Yeah, people aren't worried about him, beating him over the top or anything like that. Realistically, where do you think that his stats would be if he played an entire season?
75 catches, 1,000 yards maximum. That's like his top level.
That's what I was honestly thinking. And I still think he can get touchdowns. I still think he can get 8, but I would be like 900 yards, 7 touchdowns.
That's solid. And you know what?
And I don't think you'll have to overpay for him.
No, I don't think so. He's 27th right now.
I think he's going to be a very safe wide receiver to have, but he's also not going to be a breakout. There's not a whole lot of upside to him.
Exactly.
But
But there isn't anybody really around him to challenge him to be the number one. John Brown.
That's the scary part. And to think about this, their 1 and 2 wide receiver, they just got in the offseason.
Yep.
They got Michael Crabtree from Oakland, and then they got John Brown from Arizona.
He's got Brashard Perriman just hanging out.
If they didn't get those 2 guys, the next guy up is Chris Moore.
Which, that could be an interesting, you're not going to draft him in a redraft, but maybe deep dynasty. That's an interesting name just to remember. Chris Moore. Just remember that name. It's interesting that this team sucks.
I don't even know what to tell you about Chris Moore. We
don't know much about him.
We haven't seen anything out of him. He has in the past 2 years that he's played for Baltimore, he has a grand total of 25 catches.
But he could very easily step up and be the number 2 instead of John Brown, because John Brown can't stay healthy. And a lot of talent, but the guy can't stay healthy. And he's already, he's not a rookie anymore. He's been around now for a few years and just not happening. So at some point, you just don't expect it. Then tight ends, there is no fantasy value for me at tight end for this team. Nick Boyle, Max Williams, no.
Nothing there. You're thinking maybe Max Williams will.
There's just nothing they're all going to have to be other than Alex Collins and Michael Crabtree. You're not drafting a Baltimore Raven. I don't think they're gonna have to step up they're gonna have to step up in the first couple weeks before you draft one, and we just spent way too much time on a terrible team.
Yeah,
but Alex Collins is a very interesting situation.
Yeah, I think running back is interesting, and my big thing is Crabtree.
Yeah.
So where does their running back truly fall, and will they get someone else? And Crabtree, what really is his value? Yeah. And I think his value is a low end wide receiver 2 or a high end wide receiver 3. Yeah.
All right, how about Cincinnati Bengals? Let's move over to them. And again, they have another situation where you got a quarterback who is on the fringes of, being able to play him in fantasy. Andy Dalton isn't anything. He's had stretches where he's been good at times, but not enough where he's going to be a starter on any kind of fantasy team. He's going to be a bye week fill-in with good matchups. That's pretty much what he is. You just hope that he can play well enough to make it so AJ Green is relevant. AJ Green's the star, obviously, here. You don't really have to go into too much on AJ Green, except that I think you're going to get a decent value for him this year. He's not going to be... People are kind of, I say down on AJ Green. They're just kind of... Other guys have passed him in a way, and he's kind of fallen that way, but he's still going to be good. But 75 and 1,000 yards last year and 8 touchdowns, and that was a complete down year.
Yeah. That is pretty crazy to think that 1,000 yards is... I mean, to put it in perspective as well, though, he got almost 1,100 yards. The year before that, 950 yards, and he only played 10 games.
Yeah, that's the difference. It was a disappointing year because the year before he was so good before he got hurt. So we hope he can bounce back to maybe that level. You're not going to have to pay for him as the top 5 anymore, though. I think he's getting that 5 to 10 range kind of now. I mean, if you think about it, it's probably where he's going to fall, right? Brown, Hopkins, Odell, Julio, Michael Thomas, I think are all probably ahead of him in rankings now. So he kind of maybe starts off that next tier with like Mike Evans, Keenan Allen type players. So it's good value. I think he's a great player. He's still young enough. So it's if Andy Dalton can play.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him at all regressing.
Well, I think actually a bigger key, there's really no other wide receivers either. John Ross.
Yeah, maybe we'll finally get to see him.
We just don't know.
Brendan LaFell, Tyler Boyd, kind of like it was a bunch of what ifs.
Yeah, John Ross is obviously the most interesting there, so hopefully he can do something.
Yeah,
the running back situation is where it's at, and Joe Mixon is the one. And we're not going to be the only ones who expect something from Joe Mixon this year. We did last year; everyone did. Didn't really quite happen, but Cincinnati kept giving him the ball though for the most part. I think there's something about him I like when I watch him play. If the team can turn it around, I think he's going to be pretty good. And he's going to go as a running back too, though. I wish he was falling further, but everyone's kind of seeing that there could be something there they don't want to miss out. So he's in that right now 16th ranked running back. So it's tough in a way to pay for a running back kind of there that hasn't actually put it together yet.
Yeah,
that's where the risk comes in. I do like Joe Mixon, though, and I do like his chances.
I do, too. And I think it really helps him the fact that Jeremy Hill is no longer with them.
Yep.
So it's going to be Mixon show, and then they're going to throw Giovanni Bernard in there to, supplement him. Probably in the passing game a little bit, too. But I know that A.J. Green technically played all 16 games, but it felt like he was hobbled. It felt like he wasn't really. And it felt like this whole team was very disjointed last year. I think that they're going to be much improved. And I think Mixon is going to reap a lot of the benefit.
I really think so too. I'm excited about him. If it doesn't happen this year, though, I think he's not going to be quite the player.
Could be completely wrong, but it doesn't feel like it. I think at the very least, I think he'd be a running back 3. Yeah, I think he would be worth having on your team. I don't think he'd be a bust.
Yeah, you watch him play and you can just see the talent there. I feel like it's there. It just is the team going to even let him put it together? Hopefully. And the tight end, Tyler Eifert, all the talent in the world, but the guy can't stay healthy ever. Hopefully, if he can be a steal in drafts because you're not going to have to do much to pay for him this year. He's going to be one of those minimum tight ends just because of the injury history. And right now he's ranked 12th. You can get a 12th ranked tight end for nothing.
Yeah,
which I love. He'll be on a lot of my teams if I have to pay nothing for him.
Dude, unbelievably high ceiling, but I do have to say, you have to plan accordingly that he will not play the entire year.
Yeah.
So he's pretty much like the next Jordan Reed, if you will.
Yeah.
Where you just have to assume you're always going to have another tight end around. I mean, listen to this just to put it in perspective. He's been in the league for 5 years now. Never played a full season.
Yeah.
Rookie year comes out, 15 games. Pretty good, right? Only missed a game. Next year, only plays 1 game. Then 13, then 8, and last year only 2.
Yeah, it's terrible.
But in the years when 2015, 2016, between him, he had 18 touchdowns when he played 21 games. I mean, that is insane production.
It is. But he can't stay healthy, so at least you don't have to pay for him to get
I was going to say, where would you... I mean...
I'm paying $1. in an auction and I'm drafting him at the end. That's it.
I feel like
it.
someone will be able. They're going to take a bigger risk than a buck.
They might. And I don't think I'm going to do it though. I don't like him enough to do that.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the kind of the ripple effect of how many roster spots you have to have because of this. And I already don't like the tight end position that much. It's very, very shallow. But saying that, this guy, you would reap all the benefit in the world if he actually did pan out, because you would be paying nothing for a tight end that could easily be in the top 5. When every top 5 tight end right now, anyone that's going to produce on a regular basis, will cost something, right? Yeah. I mean, you got to be thinking $10 in a draft league, or you got to get them 3 rounds ahead of everyone else in a snake.
One player I won't be drafting is Eric Ebron. Just gonna say that. Hate that guy. This has nothing to do with this preview, but I hate Eric Ebron.
We're going off the rails on that one.
Did you see what he said?
No, I didn't.
Oh my god.
No, you're gonna upset me.
He said the reason he signed with the Colts was Andrew Luck, because he wanted to play with a quarterback who could get him the ball. Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully...
you got to catch it, Eric. Yeah, you get thrown the ball, you got to catch it. If you whatever. I'm happy you're out of Detroit. Hope you hear this, too. I really do. I mean, are you even going to be playing with Andrew Luck? I mean...
you got to hope that his shoulder comes back.
I don't even know who the backup is anymore there. I don't even care. Who was the backup?
Was it Brissett?
Yeah, he sucks, too. God, I hate him. Makes me rationally angry.
Brown.
All right. Okay, we'll talk about the AFC South next week or something.
Right.
We got the NFC North next episode, so we'll talk about how we're happy not to have Ebron on the Lions. Doesn't deserve us. All right. Cleveland Browns, Jeff.
A team that I can get behind.
Yeah, I like this team. This is interesting. There's some fantasy stuff going on here.
I never thought that I'd be like, that winless team last year, a lot of upside.
Oh yeah. How weird is that? First quarterback Tyrod Taylor, he's always fantasy relevant because of his running ability. And he's going to be an interesting play always because of that. And with this team, maybe he's going to be able to do it again. He doesn't throw many touchdown passes, but just the running keeps him as a relevant player. They signed Carlos Hyde, which we don't know what to think yet because they still could get Saquon Barkley. We don't know. They're going to draft a quarterback with one of the 2, picks they have in the top 4 for sure. Just which one are they going to get him get a quarterback 1, get a quarterback 4, and are they going to get Barkley as well? No one has a clue right now. So that's a hard team to evaluate at the running back position right now because of that. Either way though, no matter which one, I think Tyrod's going to help the running back along here. Just a running quarterback always just helps. I mean, McCoy did great with Tyrod. You always think back to like even Robert Griffin. We talked about Robert Griffin a few times with him and Alfred Morris. When they were going, Alfred Morris was a good player with Robert Griffin. Never really did anything else without him. Having a running quarterback just helps you as a running back. So Hyde could be very valuable if he's the starter. We just don't know if he will be. And then Duke Johnson, he ends up there in PPR, but people are going to see where he finished ranked in PPR last year and like think he's that as valuable as that. But he ended up being ranked in top 15 because of attrition, I think. A lot of injuries. He gets up there higher. I'm not going to really draft him too much. I don't like to rely on a player who's going to have some good weeks and then other times he's just going to disappear and do nothing. Really hard to rely on that kind of guy. And I don't see him getting a lot of work now with Hyde there, especially if Barkley gets there.
All bets are off if they actually did, because it feels like every single place is saying that Saquon Barkley is going to go to the Browns at 4.
Unless somebody snatches them, unless the Giants. We don't know what the Giants are going to do it to. That's the issue.
Yeah, and that very could be but if they does come here and they do end up getting him, I don't even know what that looks like, to be honest.
I don't either. I don't know if I don't feel like they're gonna want to run him into the ground.
No, but you have 3 running backs when it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because it really did. Duke Johnson, it has when he's gotten the ball, he's ran it very proficiently. He can catch it out of the back. He does a lot of really nice things, but obviously you don't get a whole lot of playing time if you're running back 3. Do they look to trade at that point? I don't even know.
No, I think they just go with it, but that means Duke is just not a reliable fantasy option. At the end of the year, he might end up there, but doesn't mean you're going to rely on him week to week. So I'm going to stay away from him. PPR, yes, he does get more value. He's going to be draftable. I guess. It depends on Barkley. We have to wait in the Browns and see what happens with Saquon. That's it.
Yeah, that's going to be the linchpin.
Yep. But wide receivers, again, question marks all about, even though I love the players. So you got Jarvis Landry. He's been great, reliable option for years with, Dolphins. But does that translate to the Browns, or is that just a Dolphins thing? Was that how they used him? Can he be more than just a possession receiver and catch 110 balls for 320 yards kind of a thing? Can he do more? I think he can. Corey Coleman, there's potential there. Just don't know if he can put it together, especially with now Landry and Josh Gordon there. It's tough, man. There's
a lot to love.
I love it, but it's is somebody really gonna break out from this as a great option, or is just gonna be a lot of good, decent options?
Yeah, I don't know. And you look at Tyrod, and he, like you said, he doesn't throw a lot of touchdowns.
That's the worry for the wide receivers is Tyrod. They're gonna draft a guy, but he's not going to be ready this year, and they're obviously not planning on him playing this year.
No,
because of Tyrod.
Yeah, and I think Tyrod is a good NFL quarterback. He doesn't throw a lot. What did he have? 14 touchdowns last year.
That's it.
Very, very low. So if you're kind of banking on who can we get, Jarvis Landry seems like kind of a perfect fit for Tyrod, where he will get open, he can find him, check down, get some yardage. But for some reason, I keep gravitating towards Josh Gordon because I feel like he's an athlete that Tyrod Taylor really never had. And you maybe call my bluff in Buffalo, but I think that would be hard to find since Josh Gordon is a freak of nature. I think that I'm not saying that Tyrod is going to all of a sudden become a 30-touchdown guy, but going from 14 to 20 doesn't seem that crazy. Especially when you have all these weapons. The problem is it going to be spread over the group, Jarvis Landry, Josh Gordon, Corey Coleman, David Njoku, and then if you throw to Duke Johnson, Carlos Hyde, both of those backs catch the ball out of the backfield, it does feel like they have a mismatch of the quarterback, but I think he can do it. I just don't think he is ever asked to in Buffalo. I think the whole thing was don't turn the ball over. So Tyrod Taylor is kind of an intriguing quarterback in my eyes. I don't know what that's going to translate to quite yet. But I like everything. I just don't know who the touchdowns are actually going to go to.
And they also signed Jeff Janis.
Yeah, which I liked him in Green Bay as well.
And they also have David Njoku yet, which he's going to be better. There's just tight ends don't break out right away. It takes a couple years. I think Njoku, first-round talent, is going to be great. Most tight ends drafted in the first round are great unless your name's Eric Ebron and you're worthless. That's about it. So David Njoku, I think, is going to be fine. So I like this team. Just a lot of waiting around to see how they're going to be used. But there's definitely going to be fantasy value here. But we have to see what they do in the draft.
Can you think of a time where Tyrod had this kind of talent around him?
No, I mean, he had
McCoy.
Yeah, he had McCoy, and he had Sammy Watkins, but Sammy Watkins was injured all the time.
Yeah.
But when Sammy Watkins was healthy for that little bit of time, was Tyrod was the quarterback there, I believe.
Yeah, he was.
And at the time, and when Watkins was really doing well, that one stretch he had. He had one great stretch of football.
Okay, let me look at this. So that's probably 2015. He missed 2 games and he went 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. So he's done it. So he really only was the starter the last 3 years.
Yeah.
So 20-6, 17-6, 14-4. And I mean, really, he averages about 500 yards. It was down a little bit last year, but 500 yards a year rushing, which with, about 4 touchdowns.
Yeah, and in 2015, Sammy Watkins was really good at wide receiver with Tyrod as a quarterback. So and that was only in 13 games. Sammy Watkins had over 1,000 yards, 9 touchdowns. So he can get it done.
Yeah, and I think it's important to point out as well, if you do play in a league where passing touchdowns are only 4 points compared to rushing, Tyrod Taylor is an intriguing prospect. He really is. And I say prospect, like he hasn't been around, but he's going to run the ball. He's going to get some touchdowns. That's not going away. I think he can actually up his touchdowns. I think he could pretty much repeat 2015.
Yeah.
But hopefully without missing the 2 games. So, I think he could 20, 21 touchdowns, something like that, throwing. Another 5, on the ground, 3,000 yards. That wouldn't be bad.
All right. One more team. Pittsburgh Steelers. Not as much to talk about here because they're just good. We know Ben Roethlisberger is solid. He's going to be undervalued, though, I think, in drafts. He always is. People kind of just throw him aside in a way for the new thing, for the Jimmy Garoppolo, kind of player this year. Jared Goff. That's what happens to Ben Roethlisberger. Let's see where he's currently ranked if you throw up Fantasy Pros. And Roethlisberger's sitting at 11 right now. Okay, that's fine. I still think that's great value for Roethlisberger. I think he's going to be good. So you're going to have that probably 1 week where he's terrible for you. But for the most part, he's pretty good. Running back, Bell, he's going to be great. He's going to sign. I'm not worried about that. They're going to get a deal. I highly doubt anything will happen with that. So Bell's going to be great. Antonio Brown's going to be great. We know that. They're going to be great. There's no worries there. It's the other guys. Juju Smith-Schuster. Can he be really good? Is he going to continue that? And where should we draft him then? Because rankings-wise, he's currently 26. He's actually one spot ahead of Michael Crabtree, who we talked about. One spot behind Marvin Jones. So I don't think that's bad. Wide receiver 3.
I think that's probably the safe spot to have him. I think 2 is a little rich, but I really like the guy. I think he's going to be very good again. I mean, you saw what he did last year. Antonio Brown wasn't hurt. Le'Veon Bell wasn't hurt. Same Roethlisberger. I mean, the big one was the fact that Martavis Bryant, shit the bed. I don't think he's really making a comeback or going to solidify himself as that wide receiver 2. I think it's Juju Smith-Schuster's, and I also think he's the future of that team. So, they're going to kind of build around him because Roethlisberger goes, Antonio Brown, they'll probably go together like fairly shortly.
Well, and I mean, this could almost be if Bell doesn't sign a long-term deal and he plays on, the franchise tag again. I mean, Roethlisberger could go up for this year and Bell could go up for this year. It's not even that crazy. And then Antonio Brown, he's kind of stuck with whatever they have there, which would be disappointing for him, especially being like 31 years old at that point. But do you see a bounce back from Martavis Bryant? Say that. That's another intriguing. Can there be something?
There always can be. His ability is out of this world. But when you have, my big thing is, I think that he screwed himself last year. I really do. I think that Juju Smith-Schuster and Antonio Brown ahead of him are much more reliable. They haven't run into issues. They're guaranteed commodities now. So I think there's upside that he could catch a good amount of touchdowns or kind of revert back to that red zone threat. But I still think he's going to be hit or miss, and I think the other two are just good to go. So I can't get too excited about the guy because I think that there's more. I think there's better people around that you can get in his pot.
And then that's about it. Martavis, I'm just saying I'm staying away. Don't like him. Yes, he could be great, but I don't like it. They also signed Trey Griffey, Ken Griffey Jr.'s son.
Oh, no kidding.
He probably won't make the team, but it's just interesting. He should have played baseball, I think. Would have been better. All right, that's about it. That's all I got for the Steelers. All I got for the AFC North. The most intriguing team is the team that didn't win a game last year. So they are, to me, Cleveland's going to be the most interesting to see what happens. And then Alex Collins with Baltimore, which we talked about forever. That's another we don't know what he is, and I'm not going to bank on it. So that'll be it. All right, that'll do it for the AFC North. We'll be back on Thursday. We'll have the NFC North. We'll talk about, which is, I think, a very interesting division. And obviously, we're Lions fans, so we'll talk about the Lions a little bit, see what they're going to do. We'll talk to you guys then.